Hi, hello, hello, and welcome to this Open Thursday. Yeah, today we look at boundaries, and the plan is to get clear on boundaries. um, for me, I came to boundaries to realizing that I lack boundaries. The way that I came to all good things in my life, almost all good things in my life, by many, many years ago, wanting a man. And I was suffering in that particular relationship. And then I reached out to relationship coach. And I wanted her to show me what I can do, what else I can do, what more I can do to make this man love me. And the funny thing is that she showed me that I was already doing a lot and too much. And also that I was not really saying no. I was all the time saying yes to whatever. And that I went along with things which were not fine with me. Like in that case, in particular, I was going along with the situations where he would um, say maybe we see each other over the weekend, and then he would never firm up a date, and then he would call last minute and he would say like, can let's go out now, and I would go, although um, it was uncomfortable for me because I had already other plans and so on. So yeah, and other things. And I discovered in that experience that when I was not setting boundaries, I actually invited the other person to not respect me. I was not respecting myself, and he started not respecting me. And that there is a very, very tight connection between respect and love. When we cannot respect somebody, then we also cannot love that person, even if love was there in the beginning. So for me, that was a dating situation. We were still in kind of getting to know each other situation. But I see this also a lot with couples who, in the beginning, they were pretty close and there was attraction, there was love. And then on the way somewhere, love got lost and it turned into either distance, boredom, or even conflict. And people wonder why, how, where did the love go? But when now, with the eyes of today, look at these couples, I see many, many situations where it's clear that boundaries are missing. And usually it's on the side of one person, but sometimes it's on both persons. And when, like I said, when boundaries are not there, then respect is out the window and then love soon follows. So that's one way how we discover we miss boundaries. Another way we discover we miss boundaries is sometimes with outside help. Maybe a coach, maybe a therapist can point this to us, is when we feel depleted in our relationships, when we feel taken advantage of, when we feel constricted in a relationship. That's when that's a clear sign that we are not saying no in those relationships. When we feel irritation, that's also a sign. And sometimes friends tell us I saw situations like this. Never happened to me, but I saw um, where friends tell us like, "Oh, girl, don't you think that you're missing some boundaries here?" I I generally don't cheer for unsolicited advice, but if somebody tells me, "I think you're missing some boundaries here," I usually listen just to check, because boundaries is something which we don't really know we are missing. So when an outside eye comes and sees something, um, there might be some truth there. So it's good to look. Also, a sign that we are missing boundaries in our relationships is something which may seem completely um, from a different world, which is we have a dream in our life, maybe to start a business, or maybe to create a project, to build a house, to move to somewhere else, to make a big change in our life, and we don't have the energy to follow that dream. We don't have the determination to follow that dream. That for me is usually a sign that there is some lack of boundaries. Because when we go along with things which are not okay with us, that's um, when our psyche does a lot of effort, does a lot of acrobatics inside. We twist inside like a pretzel to accommodate the fact that we are not living authentically. That effort blocks a lot of energy. And that's why we don't have strength, we don't have energy for fulfilling our dreams. It's not the only reason, but it is a good place to start. Very good place to start. So, to conclude this introductory part, I want to say that for us to have um, love and happiness in our life, it's so, so important to know about boundaries and to know how to recover boundaries in our life. So let's move on and see, why is it that we don't have boundaries? Why is this such a spread phenomenon in this world? Because it really is. And we don't, well, not that we don't have boundaries, but we don't have healthy boundaries. I would like to rephrase it. And for that, we need to go back in time. We need to go back to the moment we come into this world. The childhood years are really, really, really essential for how we behave around boundaries later in life. So what happens? The first stage of our life is, when we come into this world, we are really, really small. Um, we are totally dependent on our parents, and we need a lot of care from them. We need to be um, welcome into this world. We need to be um, looked at with loving eyes. We need to be spoken to with a sweet, warm, welcoming voice. We need to be loved. We need to be supported. We we need to be seen, also to be paid attention to. All this is um, our need for love and our need for connection with the people around us, especially with our mother. We are in a stage where we need this a lot of this, a lot of bonding with our mother, especially. And when we have that, then we move into the next stage of development, um, which comes after 1 year, 1 year and a half, when we start moving around more. Um, we move into that stage feeling quite safe, content, and we can, how to say, pay attention to the next stage pretty well, and focus on what we need to learn and how we need to grow in that stage. If we don't have that for some reasons, and sometimes it's just that the parent is, there is a divorce and one parent is missing, or parents are very busy in their work, or they have problems between them, they have financial problems or depression or traumas effects and so on. If if love was somehow missing, or sometimes there, sometimes not there, then we go into the next stage feeling not so safe, feeling not so relaxed, not so contented, that we move into that stage in a state of alertness, not relaxed. Okay, now what is the next stage? The next stage in our development is actually important for our boundaries. The next stage is when, after wanting closeness and togetherness with our caretakers, yeah, mom, mother, father, older sisters, and the brothers, that's when we want to explore the world. We want to go, we start walking, we start talking, we start playing a lot, we discover friends, uh, toys, our energy jumping up and down, and we want to do things which are our own. Then we get into our, around the age of 2, they are called the terrible twos, when we start saying no. This is a very specific stage in which, as children, to grow healthily, we need to have the space to explore the world. This is a time when we need to be given the space to express our energy and to explore options and to choose and express our preferences. And for many of us, this is not really the experience that we have. For many of us, this is a time when parents choose for us, what to wear, colors, um, what to eat, um, when to wake up, when to go to sleep. For some of us, even the friends that we can play with, the games that we can play, how loud we speak, how high we jump, and so on. So what we need at this point is in life is the space to explore and to say no. And when that is taken away from us, then this is the first experience of having our boundaries crossed. And this is the experience of many children. That's the reality. I mean, not today, because with the parenting books and courses and so on, that is much less than it used to be before. All my generation, and I would say even for the next generation after me, this has been quite common experience. It's part of guiding, educating the child, giving him the right direction in life. Now, I'm not saying that children don't need guidance and they don't need to be told no, as children, of course, but um, we need also space to choose. We need also space for our own no. And when parents say no to a child, and it's good to explain to the child why that is a no, and also give the child the space to cry or to have a tantrum, to express his or her feelings. That's more, yeah, it's more of a healthy way. It's something which doesn't create this experience of, oh, boundaries can get crossed at any time. And what this kind of experience does for children is that it makes us, it normalizes boundary crossing. Also, parents come in our room and and sometimes touch us when we don't want as children. And this becomes the normal. And for many people, when they grow up, this is the normal. But actually, inside, it doesn't feel good. Well, what happens in this stage in life is that um, for those children who had a good bonding stage, good first stage, this is a moment where they realize something is wrong, something they are relaxed enough to understand, like, these restrictions, this disrespect for what I want, for my preferences, doesn't feel good. But because of the family setting, many of us don't have the space to say no to that. And usually we go in two directions. We either we fight, yeah, so we scream and kick and make a lot of noise. I call that being rebellious. Or we hide, we avoid the contact with the parents, we try to, we do our way, but we agree with them, but we do our own way. We hide, sometimes we even lie. I call that avoidant um, approach to boundaries. And then there are these other kind of kids who didn't have enough love, or they didn't have enough love um, all the time, and who are super vigilant in this stage of exploration and individuation. In this stage, we are so stressed and still looking for mama's love and for papa's love, that we don't notice that boundaries are crossed. I call this obliviousness towards boundaries. So depending on our childhood experiences, we come out of the childhood with um, three types of approaches to boundaries. One is either we are oblivious, we just don't realize that our boundaries are crossed because we were so hungry for the love and so alert to getting love that we didn't notice that our boundaries were crossed. So oblivious. We can come out rebellious, like we feel something is wrong and we usually fight back, and we are very sensitive to anybody crossing our boundaries, and we raise a wall of aggression. And then a third way is avoidant. So we also notice that something is wrong, that people are, in our territory and not respecting our space or our body or our energy. And then we avoid those people, or we tend to hide what we do from them. And we don't let them come too close because we are afraid that they will then constrict us being in a relationship. So these are the three types of behavior which I noticed when boundaries are missing. So I'm gonna pause here for a little while, and maybe we use this time just to reflect each on our own style of dealing with boundaries when we are in relationships. It's either oblivious, we are just not aware that boundaries are crossed, Maybe we hear it from our friends, but we are ourselves are not aware. So when we are um, all the time fighting back, we are pretty irritated by the disrespect from the people around us, or we tend to hide. So we grow up um, with these experiences, and then as adults, yeah, we get into different relationships. They can be friendships, love relationships, um, work relationships, mentorships, and we bring these attitudes. And whether we are oblivious, rebellious, or avoidant, one thing is for sure, we are not clear on boundaries. Even when we set a boundary by screaming and kicking, we don't really know what we are doing. We just know we are annoyed. And well, sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. It's more fair to say. I noticed that almost all of us have some situations which we don't know that they are boundaries missing, because in our childhood, in our um, home family, it was the normal. This is why I usually share this list, which I'm going to show to you in a second, with people, at which we look and we kind of take stock of the areas where we are not clear about boundaries, where we might say, oh, yeah, but if it's a friend, it's okay if he does that. Or um, I'm not sure if I'm a nice person if I say something about this. So those are usually gray areas, which is good to clarify and to know that we make compromises there. But before going to the list, one very simple way to think about boundaries is this. Um, I am a country, and this country contains my body, my energy, my time, my limited time, because we all have limited time, um, my thoughts, my headspace, yeah, and my feelings. And you are another country, and you have your body, you have your energy, your time, your um, headspace, your feeling space. And when we come into a relationship, sometimes it happens that we don't just, come close to each other. We actually invade each other, you know, and that doesn't feel good. That is boundary crossing. So, in a very simple way, if you are late constantly on our meetings, on our dates, that says that you are not really respecting my time. You are invading my time, my need to manage my limited time. um, or if I am touched when I don't want to be touched, that's another invasion. It's like my body is invaded in that way. Or if somebody tells me you shouldn't feel like this, I say, oh, I'm so sad, this and that happened to me, and somebody says like, oh, you should think more positive. Um, that's where my feelings are invaded, where I'm not given the space to have my feelings. When somebody raises the voice, when they could just say things to me that they are bothered about. They don't need to raise a voice. When somebody raises a voice or uses a blame, shaming language, that affects my headspace and my feeling space. That's another type of invasion. So this is a good way to think of boundaries, which brings a lot of clarity whenever we are in doubt. Is this an invasion or not? It, yeah. So I'm going to share with you now the list, which brings even more clarity. So I'm going to put it up on the screen. And this, for most of it, I need to give credit to Krishnananda and Amana from the Learning Love Institute. And personally, I learned a lot from this list. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to go through it. A big one for me, which I didn't realize was that when I'm treated unequally, that's an invasion, that's a boundary crossing. You know, I'm either treated as a child or as a student, or I am seen as a teacher or a guru. That's neither are okay, basically. When I'm ordered to do something, and sometimes in our relationships, we feel like we have the right to do that in a friendship. We can order each other around, but it doesn't feel nice. It doesn't feel good. When I'm manipulated with guilt, it's also or helplessness. It's also a situation where a no is appropriate. Okay, I trust you had the time to go through the list, and I'd like to say that getting clear on what is invasion and what is not is a very necessary first step when we want to recover boundaries in our life, when we want to learn to say no. This is the first step. Be clear about what are the situations where a no is appropriate, and start checking in with ourselves when such situations happen. Do I feel good? Because sometimes, you know, with some people we might feel good, but the radar is inside in our body. So it's really, really good to start paying attention to the signs in the body. That is the first step. Then the second step is to notice again, like take stock. How am I reacting usually? Am I just ignoring? Am I oblivious? Am I attacking the other person? Or am I avoiding, kind of running away from the situation? And whichever of these three is the case, there is a much, much better and really healthy alternative. And that is to not attack, not flee, but just stay in the situation and have a conversation with the other person. And we start by stating what is not okay for us. And a very simple, I also feel that it's very, very helpful in the beginning when it's a little bit like learning to walk. We need a little bit of props for that, you know. And it's good to, I felt for me, it was really helpful to have um, like a template that I started using whenever I notice, okay, this is an invasion, I'm not okay with this. A template of how to say it. I'm gonna share it with you. So this template has 4 steps. We start by saying when, and then we describe the situation. Um, when you do this, it's basically when you do this, or when you say this, or when you don't do this, right? It doesn't feel good. Um, then the next step is to clarify. It's not just talking about how I feel, but it's also to make it clear what is the boundary which is crossed. Because people are as unclear as we are. And when we say it in the words, in the way that the previous slide was showing, then it becomes also clear to them what is happening there. In a way, we are educating our friends how to treat us. So it is not okay for me when my time is not respected, for example, or when you give me advice without me inviting it. The third step is to actually make a request. And I would like you to, and then we name the alternative. How is it that we would like to be treated? And then we finish with the question, is that okay with you? Or I wonder how you feel about what I just shared. That's also a good option I want to mention. Yeah. So an example which I shared here is when I share with you about how my day went and you tell me I shouldn't feel upset, it doesn't feel good. It is not okay for me when I am told what I should or shouldn't feel. I would like you to just listen. Would that be okay with you? There are also other possibilities, right? So I might want a practical solution, or I might want to hear if the other person resonates with what I share, but not that I shouldn't feel upset. So that's basically my feelings being invaded. Yeah. So this is a way that we can create for ourselves easily, sort of a script. In the beginning, I'm all for authenticity and I'm all for just speaking naturally and with boundaries because they were crossed for so long. And because we didn't have good examples, many of us in our family, I discovered that it's good to have this support, this kind of prompts in the beginning. And then, now I'm not thinking about how I'm gonna, I don't follow a template um, anymore. But in the beginning, this was really, really helpful just to give ourselves the experience and feel how it feels to express what we don't need and what we need. It's really empowering. And it's also to give ourselves the experience to see what happens on the other end. Because so often we are afraid that we will be met with resentment, we will be made to feel bad for speaking up for ourselves. But often people are just, in the beginning, they are a bit, what's going on here? But then they get it. And I often got apologies. I often got explanations of why they were behaving like this. And most often I got the promise that I will try not to do that again. And of course, there are people and situations where we don't get that. And people sometimes get angry with us for not, um, yeah, for expressing our no. From in my experience, that's quite rare. And also, um, it is a time to really evaluate if that is a good friendship, if that is a good work relationship, if that is a good mentor mentee kind of relationship. Because when people want to be in a relationship with us only when we go along with whatever they want from us, whether it's okay or not with us, then it's really time to ask, is this a good relationship? So I'm gonna pause a little bit here also, maybe to give some time to consider whether there is a situation in your own life where you would like to say no to somebody and you found it difficult so far. Uh, just contemplate a little bit how it would be if you go through these steps. So first saying when you, and then describing what is that person doing exactly like in that situation. So when you do that, it doesn't feel good to me. It is not okay for me. And then explain what is the boundary that is crossed. You know, it can go on like, it doesn't feel good to me when my energy limits are not respected or when my feelings are not respected. It doesn't feel good to me to be treated unequally. It doesn't feel good to me to be spoken in a way which is blaming and shaming. It doesn't feel good to me not to be given the space to choose. It doesn't feel good to me to have my time managed by others. It's not okay. It's not okay for me. And then the next step is I would like you to, and then how would you like that person to behave differently? What would be a better course of action? You know, maybe I would like you to communicate with me before, or I would like you to ask permission before. Um, or I would like you to simply just not do it. um, let's see what fits for you. And then end with, is that okay with you? Or if it feels more appropriate, with, I wonder how you feel about what I'm sharing now. Now, I know that some of us, even when we know that setting a boundary is appropriate, when we have the words on paper, we know what we need to say, we simply can't. We don't find it in us to take the step. And that can be maddening because we know we are not um, living our authenticity. We might even be aware of the uh, negative impact of that, you know, that it affects our relationships, that it affects our level of energy, and yet we cannot. there is a good reason for that. And it's important to also acknowledge this part. Um, when we were children and our boundaries were crossed, usually it happened in two ways. One is by force, like we were punished if we didn't do the way our parents wanted, or we were um, scolded. So aggression was there. Aggression creates fear. We are afraid that when we say no, there will be consequences. Yeah, like verbal or maybe even physical aggression coming back at us. Another way that our boundaries were crossed was through emotional blackmail. You prefer to spend time with your friends when we would like you to be here with our family, or you shouldn't think like this. This is not the way that we think in this family. Um, the the message you get is that there is something wrong with us when we express our preference, um, and that creates guilt inside of us. So these are the two emotions which usually come up when we don't find it possible to set a boundary. We know we should say it, we know what we should say, and yet as we try to do it, there is fear coming up or there is guilt coming up. Usually, when these inner blocks are there, I recommend people to go deeper, and we usually do this in sessions. But what I can say now is that if you feel fear setting a certain boundary, then it's good to make a connection to see how the situation in the present is connected to the situation in the past, and maybe see that little child who was faced with real danger at that time and realize that now we are adults, we are grown up women and men, and such danger is not there. We can always take ourselves out of any situation. Uh, and yet, there is still a trembling little girl, little boy inside, and that's fine. So instead of completely giving up, saying a no, just holding ourselves inside, holding this little girl, this little boy, as it still shakes inside of us, and then still take the step to state to our friend or to our lover what doesn't work for us. Because if we don't, then we continue to stay in that state of a little girl, little boy. We continue to be walking through life as a child afraid of consequences. And we are not children anymore. So that's really an opportunity to grow up, to mature, and to start living authentically. And if we notice that guilt is coming up, it's also good to connect and see what was the message that we received as children when we wanted to state our individuality, when we wanted to say a no, when we wanted to choose something different from our parents. What was the message that we received at that time? And usually what we discover there, it's something in the area that um, if we are to be in a relationship, then you need to give up who you are. Otherwise, I hurt. Otherwise, I suffer. I need you to be less than you are, different than you are, so that I am happy. And then wonder, like really ask yourself, is that how you want your relationships to be? Is that a healthy relationship where you need to um, edit yourself, censor yourself, make yourself less, don't express yourself in order for the other person not to feel hurt? Is that the kind of relationship that will make you happy? Or would you rather try, take the risk to say what you need, what you don't need, and find out? Because maybe the other person is really okay with you as you are. So many of us grew up with this message that us taking care of ourselves, protecting ourselves, we are hurting the other person. But it's not really true. We are all responsible for ourselves. And I know from our experience that good, healthy relationships happen only when we give each other space to be as we are and we respect each other's space and body and thoughts and feelings and energy and time. We don't need to be something else than we are in a healthy, juicy, harmonious relationship. But this is an experience that we need to give ourselves. We need to give to ourselves by setting boundaries. So I end up on this note more of an encouragement, inspiration, just go for it. Whether you feel fear, whether you feel guilt, just go for it. Give yourself this experience. And yeah, it's just about moving from a child state to a really adult, mature state where we can live authentically. Okay, this is the end of Let's Get Clear on Boundaries session of today. And I want to say, if you are going to implement some of the concepts that you found out in this particular session and you would like to go deeper, or you discover you have some internal barriers and you need support, just let me know. And I can always support with sessions. If it's not something too complicated, then I will definitely answer by email. So yeah, let's stay in touch. Let me know how it goes. Thank you so much and see you soon. Bye.